Hello guys and welcome in today's episode where we are featuring this guy right here. This is the Acer Nitro V and it's actually one of the best selling laptop right now on Amazon because, well, the price to performance ratio, it's actually quite right. After much tinkering with this laptop right here, I would say it actually comes fairly close to the asking price, or at least in my point, that Asus is asking for this laptop, which is $1,300 right now on their website. It is a lot of money to fork out for a laptop, I know, but anyway, in my humble opinion, anything underneath $1,000 at the moment on the market, because prices are crazy, there are gonna be some drawbacks, some big drawbacks. This isn't to say that this doesn't have its own drawbacks, but definitely overall I would say this laptop gives you the chance to stay well anchored into the future, with upgrades possibility definitely being a go on this laptop. Now, this being said, they're taking a step into the right direction by giving you a cable that's required in order to upgrade your SSD inside this machine, and that's very well and nice to see. Not only that, of course, you can upgrade your RAM and can easily change out the battery when it's time to do so. This laptop right here does actually have a bit of a drawback. Of course, it has drawbacks at this price point, and that is unfortunately the GPU that can't be swapped out. Now, don't get me wrong, this has a 3050 Ti. It only rocks 4 GB of VRAM on it. It does a splendid job. You'll see further on in the video where I tested Hogwarts Legacy that it did a tremendous job at playing that game, and it actually did a stellar job of doing so. It actually can offer you great and good gameplay even with AAA games at the moment, and that is pretty impressive to see with a 4 GB card inside this laptop. But it also works in conjunction with the integrated graphics on the Intel side of the processor unit as well. Let's get this review going by taking a look at the outside of the laptop and talking about its design elements, and definitely moving from outside in order to talk about its specification. And definitely later on you'll see me playing some Hogwarts Legacy, which is definitely a AAA game right now that can make or break laptops that sit at around the $1,000 price point. Let's see what we get in the box here with this Acer Nitro V. It lies within. Yeah, we basically get the laptop, some literature, and the accessory box. Starting off with the accessory box, of course I'm supposing that this is the charger. Power brick itself, there's not even branding on here, it says Delta. Okay, very nice Chinesian premium stuff here, as this would say. And if the camera would focus there, you can actually see that we're getting 180 watts of power on this brick right here. Yeah, a very small font indeed. Hey, on the bright side though, you do have an HDD upgrade cable, so yeah, you actually get the side that goes into the, well, HDD itself, and the plug that goes onto your motherboard. So that's very nice to see upgradability wise with this design from Asus. Not only that, but of course, Asus does give you the included screws that you're going to need. Yep, and now it's time for the main course. Ta-da! So this is the unit itself. First of all, yes, it is a fingerprint magnet. That's because it's all made out of plastic. And it is, well, it is what it is. I mean, you know, the price point can only give you certain things, and this definitely gives you a plastic, I would say, screen right here. And not only that, but of course the plastic chassis as well comes with the plastic screen. So there's no metal to be had here with this unit whatsoever, but hey, it is what it is. It is still fingerprinty, as you can see right here, so you can definitely have the oils from your skin showing up on this laptop as you go and use it. The trackpad is rather, I would say, a medium-sized trackpad with clickiness, or I should say clicky buttons here on the left and clicky buttons on the right, so that's definitely nice and tactile. It is a fairly good keyboard. It's definitely going to leave a lot of residues and smudges, so you can definitely see that. If your OCD goes wild with this, then definitely, well, it is what it is. But what I do like about this laptop right here is definitely the keyboard. Unfortunately, it's only backlit by this red RGB, and there's no way that you can actually control this red RGB. There's not any type of zones with the keyboard or anything. It's just one zone, one color, and that's it. Take it or leave it, hate it or love it. This is what you get with this unit right here. Although the keys themselves are actually feeling quite nice because they're very tactile, they're very rubbery, and I very much like this type of keyboards. I have seen something similar with Asus that was really nice as well, with very tactile keyboard layout overall, and the feel is actually rather amazing with it being a bit rubberized on top. The typing experience on this keyboard is actually feeling quite good because the keys actually do travel a little bit, not too much, not too little, but definitely just enough in order to make it feel quite good. And I would say the spring back is actually quite okay as well, so there is a lot of feedback coming out from these keys, especially mashed together with the fact that they're rubberized really makes them feel quite good. You do get, of course, your numpad in here as well, so I know there are people who prefer to have the 10 keyless version of the keyboards in laptops, but definitely most of the manufacturers nowadays go with the version that includes, of course, the numpad with the entire keyboard, making it a bit more cramped, I would say, but definitely not a big factor, especially if you are gaming. And well, as Acer is trying to point out to you, the W, A, S, and D keys are actually highlighted a little bit if you can see it. So yeah, that means gaming on this laptop, or at least that's what Acer is telling us. Coming up to the screen here, because it's all plastic, as you can see, it is quite flexy and bendy, but hey, it is what it is. Unfortunately, I do have another gripe. Well, yeah, I've mentioned in passing the 3050 and it's only 4 gigabytes of VRAM. That's doing okay though. But this screen right here, unfortunately, is not getting nearly enough as bright as it should. It only goes up to 300 nits and it's only an LCD screen. So yeah, even though you can get up to 144 Hertz on it, I'm definitely not going to think that you are going to get nearly as much FPS into some sort of AAA games running this hardware inside this laptop. But hey, you know, whatever your poison of choice is, maybe a CSGO or Return to Moria or I don't know, Minecraft or something like that, definitely in those titles you can get full advantage of the 144 Hz, just not in good AAA games that are really graphically demanding. The overall aesthetic of the laptop, well, it weighs around 800 grams and it feels heavy. It feels on the heavy side. Yeah, it definitely feels heavy. I mean, 800 grams is 800 grams. It's definitely not something like that you can carry around one-handed at least. But if you are going to carry it in a bag or in a laptop case, or maybe in a backpack, definitely it's not going to be a problem for you. Although the battery size in this machine, which is only rated to be 57.5 watts hour, it's not really gonna last you all that long when gaming on the go or maybe doing some very intensive projects like, I don't know, doing some video edits. I would say probably in around 2.5 hours ish tops. That will be kind of your benchmark or the point to aim for. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, yeah, what can you expect? Definitely the hinges on the screen feel quite good. They feel tight, and I definitely do like a laptop that can open up one-handed without having to hold the base. But hey, it being 800 grams, definitely the base has to count for something, so one-handed opening the screen, yes. On the left-hand side of the machine, let's talk about the port situation a little bit. You have a Kensington lock, so in case you're running a store and you want to secure this laptop to the table, then that's for you. Otherwise, let's just move on here. Of course, you're having an exhaust fan, one of the fans being situated over here in the machine, and the other one being situated over there, and there's another exhaust fan over there. Let's move on. I do like to see that we have a full RJ45 situation going on here, so you do have this little flap that can open up to a full RJ45 port, so that's definitely nice to see. You have 10 gigabytes LAN that's enabled with that port right there, and that's very nice to see. Covering the other port situation right here, of course, you're having a USB Type A 3.2 Gen 1 right there, and of course a headphone jack, which is actually quite good to have on this machine. A little bit about this later on in the video, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. On the front of the machine here, there's nothing really happening as it is to be expected. And moving on to the side here, you have some LED indication. One of them is about the battery and the other one is about what's happening with the computer. If it's working or not working, definitely like those old style, you know, LED lights showing you whenever the HDD was running on the machine. And you are greeted with another Type A situation ports here. This time around, these are 3.2 Gen 2 and the other exhaust fan, which is located right on the right hand side of the machine. So on the back of the machine right here, you are greeted with two more exhaust ports, one here, and they are working in conjunction with the ones on the sides. And this is fairly nice to see because this machine actually spews out a lot of heat when gaming on it, and definitely the noise level can be an issue. That's why I mentioned in passing that headphone jack that can come in handy whenever you're trying to game on it and actually hear what's happening in the game and not the fans ramping up. But right here in the middle, we are greeted with what's really important for this laptop. So here you have your power in with the proprietary powered style of plug from Acer that looks like this. So this is what you can expect. I really don't fancy or like so much this style of plugs. I used to have problems with them in the past, where they will actually get frail and lose connection and cause all sort of problems happening with the devices. But I definitely hope they fix the issues because it looks more robust as it is right now. And moving forward, of course, you're getting a USB Type-C. This is a 3.2 Gen 2 with 65 watts of power delivery. That's pretty nice to see. And also DisplayPort capabilities as well. And right next to it, in case you're not a huge fan of the USB Type-C technology just yet, you are still having the HDMI 2.1. As per the underside of the machine, well, it actually is very nice because first of all, these cutouts are actually functional. They're actually cutouts. Yeah, there are a few fake cutouts around the place here, as you can see right here, but definitely you have a fan right here and another fan right here with the exact same cutouts as this one. So there's definitely a lot of air movement through these gaps, and that's very nice to see. Not only that, but of course there is some extra cutouts around here for extra heat dissipation, or I would say air intake inside the machine. And this is very nice to see because they're not only based on design where they just give you these fake vents and the impression that it's gonna work very cool and be very good and fast, and it actually overheats and it's gonna be a piece of garbage. This one actually does its job quite well. And I've actually tested out in games that the design elements for the cooling, at least in this laptop, are up to par with whatever components they choose to put in them. Because I pretty much think that they're going to share in, of course, the cooling capabilities of this laptop with other variants of it. So maybe with more powerful GPUs and stuff like that. Like other brands of laptops, you are having some downwards firing speaker action going on, with one of them being right here and the other one being right here. And of course, you're getting some rubberized feet, which are actually doing quite okay. They're doing the job quite good, I should say. And they're definitely doing an A-okay job because this laptop doesn't move around on very slidey surfaces like the one that I have right here for my desk. So, I mean, that's pretty fine. So, when you are going to decide if a laptop is going to be repair friendly or not, the first thing you can do is to actually check out the screws. And these are very common plain screws that they have decided to use with this machine all around, and that's very nice to see because they don't want to try and make it very overly complicated by using something proprietary like Apple uses. For instance, the pentalobe security screws, which you know, they come in different lengths and sizes, and that can always be a hassle. You have none of that going on right here because I think Acer actually does want you to go on in here and change out your battery when the time comes, or maybe swap out the RAM, or maybe swap out the SSD, and that's very, very nice to see from a design point. Oh, by the way, yes, this is on purpose right here. So if you'd be so kind and cool and awesome, maybe to hit subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything and it definitely helps out the channel a lot. And I would thank you tremendously from my heart because you're so cool to stick around and watch this video. And don't forget, I also have a Discord server that you can check down below. So yeah, if you want to reach me live, ask me anything that you want, and maybe I can help solve your issue for you. Definitely, I'll see you guys in there. Be cool, and let's go on. So quickly to go over the settings of Hogwarts Legacy right here, and these are basically going to give us optimal gameplay with some very nice and smooth visuals. We are going to stick with DLSS for this NVIDIA graphics card. Mind you, this is the 3050 running only 4 GB of RAM in this machine right here, and we are going to set the upscaler to balance. And basically everything else like VSync is off. We're not going to be reaching at 144 Hz or the display panel capabilities anytime soon with this title anyway. The blur is on, depth of field, chromatic aberration, and so is the film grain. And if we move into the whatever, it's more important right here. Everything is basically set on ultra except for ray tracing shadows, and ray tracing ambient occlusion. This is going to drop us somewhere in the 20s territory, so that's not going to make for a very smooth gameplay. Now, this being said, let's see how the gameplay actually is on this machine. As I've mentioned, first of all, this IPS panel is not very bright. Right now, I am running in a studio. The lights are controlled, and it is more or less half of what you would expect to see on a sunny day outside. And even running at its brightest settings right here, yeah, nothing happens. I mean, yeah, of course, this is nighttime in Hogwarts Legacy right now, but even going into some very bright and very well-lit areas. So in all fairness, we have to run the game being daylight out there as well, and this is basically what you can get to see out of it using daylight. And yeah, it looks okay. I mean, still, it's not very bright,
The brightness is still an issue. It's overall, of course, better because there's daylight outside in the game compared to the darkness of before. But yeah, it's definitely not ideal. I mean, this panel is not very bright at all, and definitely that's a shame because, well, not only that we're not going to take advantage of this 144 Hz refresh rate, but definitely we're not having any sort of advantage when it comes to the overall brightness of the screen. It is still not very bright as, well, an LED panel goes. But still, we are reaching anywhere in between, I would say, 30 to 40 FPS, depending, of course, on where you are in the game and how much it has to load in the background. It is overall a smooth experience. You do have some stutters here and there. Right, so here we have the settings. First of all, this is the 3050 Ti right here, and as you can see, this is working in conjunction with the iGPU with the Intel side. Because it does have Intel integrated graphics with the CPU. This being the 12700H version of the Intel i7 processor. And this is, of course, the memory, total memory available for this 3050 Ti, which is a maximum 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and it's just about using around 3,700 megabytes. And of course, it just, well, it uses some of that memory alongside with the memory for the iGPU itself. The CPU is sitting there quite toasty at around, well, I should say mid to high 80s. At around 20 to 20 something utilization right there and around 45 watts of power doing so. And out of the 16 gigabytes of total available DDR4 RAM, we are just using around 13 and some change there in total for this game. Anyway, the overall performance of the game is actually quite good. We are anywhere in between 30 to around 50 FPS depending on the zones and where we are in the game and what's happening with the rendering. It is running very smooth, I would say, and it actually feels quite okay. I'm a bit disappointed once again with this LCD panel because it's not overall very bright, and that kind of, you know, sucks a bit, but hey, it is what it is. But if you want to play on this machine, you can definitely do so even with some very high and intensive workload games like Hogwarts Legacy right here. The other problem that I do have with this machine is basically the fans. You won't be able to actually game and listen to the game because of those fans. Regardless of the volume settings with this laptop, you won't be able to hear pretty much anything that's coming out of the game because of the noise of these fans. I mean, take a listen.
I mean, just take a listen right here and see. This is absolutely a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of heat coming out of this, which is actually very good. There's two fans, one in here and one in here, and they're absolutely doing their job. But they're too loud. I mean, really, it's a huge annoyance when you're trying to play something or even probably watch something in 4K because you're going to hear those fans spool up quite a bit, and they're definitely going to ruin the overall experience. I mean, you could play using headphones, but yeah, realistically speaking, there's going to be times where you're not going to be using headphones, and that sucks. There's definitely things that manufacturers can do to optimize the airflow and to optimize and help with the noise reduction of the fans. Of course, like Apple did, there's actually the curvatures of the blades themselves and the distance and all the yada yada yada, but definitely they're not doing that here. They're probably slapping on some very cheap fans, which they're actually very effective, or I should say quite effective, but definitely they're not helping us out with overall the noise levels coming out of this laptop.
But overall, I'm pretty impressed with the capabilities of this only 4 gigabytes 3050 Ti installed in this machine, and I would say that this makes it to be quite a small capable beast with some obvious drawbacks for the price point. And overall, I would say that I'm pretty impressed with the performance of this guy right here, just running about 30 FPS on average, regardless of where we are in the world and what we are doing, because Hogwarts Legacy, I know, can make or break machines. They have done so on this channel before, and definitely seeing this title run so good, that makes me a happy camper. Now, of course, my review is based off of Amazon and your preferences, because a lot of you guys actually chose to buy this laptop as is. And it is no surprise to me, because I think that most of you actually think that it's fair in value for what it's offering you. Although there are a few drawbacks like the 4GB card with this RTX 3050 Ti, don't worry, Acer also sells this exact same variant of laptop with the 8GB version of the same card. That's definitely going to keep you going for longer, especially with more AAA games coming this next year. Now, of course, with 8GB of RAM, you're going to be future-proofing yourself a bit better, especially with the latest AAA games that are being announced right now for the beginning of next year, which are going to be putting more and more demand on the GPU as it is. But hey, even if you're going with this 4GB 3050 Ti right now, you're definitely in the green, especially with AAA games at the moment. And
well, I just ran Hogwarts Legacy with ultra settings, right? So yeah, you could definitely scale down the settings if you want to, but the resolution, of course, was 1920 by 1080p. If you want to hook up this laptop to a bigger monitor, then definitely this 3050 Ti is going to be struggling to push out all those many pixels onto a bigger size screen. Overall, it is a nice sturdy design. I do like the fact that you can swap out your SSD. They even provide you with the cables that you actually can use inside this machine to swap out that SSD. You can swap out easily the battery, and as well you can input more RAM inside this machine if you want to, and that's very nice to see because this all open up the door of future-proofing yourself and of course your investment, because $1,300 is a lot of money, and definitely you would like to have your devices last you as long as possible, or at least this is how I see things. Guys, thank you so much for choosing to be so awesome and watch another Tech Fusion video. Don't forget that you can subscribe to my channel, or maybe see you guys in my Discord server for any type of questions that you might have. But not only that, of course, feel free to use the comment section down below. Any type of questions that you have, write them there and I'll get to you guys. Stay awesome till the next one. Peace.